Hello everyone and welcome back to another Strategoi video. Ryan here. Today, end of the weekend, the last weekend before we get to pre-order our General's Handbook actually. So pretty looking forward to that. We've got a few more articles coming out. Today will be Slaanesh. Tomorrow appears to be Ogre Maw Tribes. And then in some order between Tuesday and Thursday we're going to have Soulblight, Sylvaneth, and Nurgle. I'm not sure what the exact order will be, but I'll be leaving the last 2 days to Jonas because I'll be in Paris. Anyway, won't have Jonas with me joining today. Hopefully we'll be able to do Sylvaneth together and Soulblight together, but it doesn't sound like we'll be able to do both of those. So anyway, I'm sure Jonas will have some great insight for us as well. Maybe it's best if he ends up getting both of his favorite armies for those 2 days. That'd be kind of cool. And then I just do Ogres and Nurgle maybe. We'll see. But anyway, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for all of the attention in the past 3 weeks of doing these. Really appreciate it. I know we're back. It's taken a while to kind of get the algorithm churning again, but it's good to see that with the Lumineth video we posted yesterday, things have been at least picking up for the Lumineth stuff. So there's that. So today we got the Slaanesh article, but I wanted to start with the other article of announcements for the General's Handbook and what all is coming out, just because that's kind of related to what we've been doing in these articles, is covering, or in these videos, covering things that have been coming out. So anyway, as you can see, we've got the General's Handbook, which will be on pre-order next weekend. I don't know if it's a 1 week wait or a 2 week wait. I never really know where to look for those here. It wasn't in the video apparently, but anyway, it either means it goes live a week from, or 2 weeks from now, or 3, I guess. But anyway, first up in this image, I don't know if we've seen this before, but we're seeing a Passing Seasons, which is a mission. And as you can see on the mission card here, the terrain layout, you've got 2 places of power centered between the kind of halfway point on the long side of the board of these guys right here, if you want to call it that way, or the long slit right here, the cut here. And then you've got some normal terrain pieces. And then you've got these 4 here, which I guess are the objective markers to correspond to some of these guys down here. Now, it's weird because they kind of said that you're going to have these things that are overlays on the objectives in one of the recent articles, but these look like objective markers themselves. So I'm kind of confused. But in any case, whatever it is, it's where you're getting this stuff, let's say, for free with your General's Handbook. It might be an additional cost that you didn't actually want to pay, but it is what it is. And then you're also getting, as we'll talk about in a sec, these little cards for the manifestations, which I'm psyched about because I like these little cards and having them with me, and it'll be nice to have those as well for the manifestations, at least for this next season, which seems to suggest that the generic manifestations aren't going anywhere, but I wouldn't have assumed they would have until every army at least gets their own set. Let's see what else they say in the article, though. A new season of Slaughter and Warfare in the Mortal Realms is at hand. This is a new guide for match play, both competitive and casual, implements a suite of changes, a new take on battle tactics, season rules, and distinctly Ghyran feel. More than just a book, the General's Handbook is a box containing a 72-page book, a set of 6 double-sided battle tactics cards, a set of 6 double-sided battle plan cards, a rules reference card, and 13 double-sided Universal Manifestations warscroll cards. Also included is a set of 6 objective markers for the new season, 2 Oakenbrow, 2 Gnarlroot, 1 Winterleaf, and 1 Heartwood, each with a non-slip backing. Interesting. So we're not learning too much more about the General's Handbook that way, but, I'm excited to see the rules. We've also got this new Spearhead set coming out, I think with some new rules, the Sand and Bone rule, and 4 new Spearhead boxes. Not that we need to cover this, but I just find it interesting. I think this Seraphon one looks really fun, at least in terms of the variety of models that you get. I don't know if it's actually a good build, but this is Hunters of Wanchi plus Pterodons, if I'm not mistaken. Or whatever these are called, the Terra Wings, excuse me. And then we've got some normal Saurus warriors, I guess, and then a leader dude here. I forget which one that is. Plus some skink stuff. Oh yeah, that's with the Spawn of Chotek. Nice. Looks like a nice set. And then cities, Wilder Corpse Hunters, some Fusiliers, and then a Fusel Major Warhulk, and an Alchemite Warforger. Also a nice box if you're trying to get started with human stuff. I just have proxies that are more steampunky that I kind of assembled through 40k stuff that I like to use for this. So it won't interest me, but I do think that's a decent box. And then the Mortisan Elite for OBR with one set of 2 Archai, or Morghast, I should say, could be Harbingers as well. And then 2 boxes worth of, you could make them either as Necropolis Stalkers or a Mortis Guard, plus a, what is this guy, the Bone Shaper? Or is this the Ossifector? Let's see what they say. Yeah, Ossifector. Yeah, is that right? I guess so. Yeah, it is an Ossifector. Sometimes those models run the same, run together for me, even though I play OBR. And then, of course, in the Spearhead, you'll have to play these in a specific way, like probably exactly what they say here. 1 set of Necropolis Stalkers and 1 set of Immortus Guard, but obviously it's just a kit, and I'm assuming you can build them either way. And then lastly, the Ogre Maw Tribes with Gnoblars, the Gnoblar Scrap Launcher, the Hunter Dude, and then some guys here, plus the Gnoblars that come with them. So yeah, pretty cool. And then if for some reason you're trying to get into your old world stuff, you got all this stuff. Okay, so anyway, that's that article. And then let's go back to the article for the day. And that would be, there was some art there. That would be this guy right here. So, scrolling down here, we've got 2 new battle profiles. One is going to be a hero here on the right for Syll'Esske. Let's take a look at what's changed there. So it has been 220 points. It looks like it's going up 10. 0 to 1 Slaaneshi Beguiler or Dark Egoist. Those are 2 different types of Italics heroes, as I call them. And then any Hedonites of Slaanesh, so that's all the same. Basically went up 10 points. And then we've got some Slaangor Fiendbloods, which is the kind of famously not great Slaanesh version of like Beasts of Chaos, I suppose. There was a time in history when every Chaos God's army had some variant of like Gore. We've got obviously Zongor and Slaangor here, but then there was a Khorne version and a Nurgle version at one point in history. But it's been mainly Zongor for the rest of all the editions we've had. But anyway, this is their new version, and it went up 30 points from 120 to 150 for a unit of 3. And then seems to have the same other options there. But we'll take a look at the actual War Scrolls now. Okay, so we've got 2 battle formations, some heroic traits, but then I'm going to scroll down here to these guys. Now, I saw a comment on the Lumineth video about why I like to go with what's changed or what hasn't. I get that a lot of players play these armies, or the armies that you play are the ones that you're going to be looking at the videos for, largely, but not everyone that watches these videos are only interested in the armies they play. So it's good to know what the old rules are or what other options are in the army. It's also good for me when I'm talking about it to be able to set my expectations for what did it used to be, what is this, so that I can get on the same page with you guys, especially if it's not my own army. Plus, I like to double check all the things that have changed. And lastly, I do like to cover all the rules for, say, heroic traits or whatever that already are eligible for you, because I think it is a choice of one or the other, and it's good to know what you're choosing. It like looking at something in a vacuum and just seeing them as new traits, and this is what you have. Like, it doesn't really do anything for me, because especially if you only have one, or you have to blow your points to get a second heroic trait, however that's going to work. Maybe you'd rather just take the old extra copies of the old things that already existed instead of the new set. So it's kind of trying to see what its value is relative to the other choices you have. But if that's not your cup of tea, I definitely think there's other channels that are covering this stuff much faster and less at length and with less deliberation, especially in real time, like I'm doing here. So if that's not your cup of tea, by all means, I'm sorry that we're not the right video for you, but I hope that you can find a good source of information out there that's at the right speed for you. Anyway, so Syll'Esske, we're going to take a look at this. As per usual, I look at the wheel first, and then I move on to the keywords, and then the melee profiles, and end with the abilities. So we've got 8-inch move, 9 health, control 4, which is very flavorful. It's like you've got 2 heroes on 1 base, which is nice, which is what it is functionally, lore-wise. But you don't see a control 4 very often, so that's unique. A 4-up save, and scrolling to the bottom, let's double check. The ward got 1 better, so that's nice. That's already a huge buff. For those that don't know, that means that you just doubled the amount of effectiveness of your ward, because you went from saving off 1 out of every 6 wounds that get allocated to you to 2 out of every 6. So doubles your output there. The keywords: unique, hero, wizard 1 still, infantry, a 5+ ward now, chaos, Hedonites of Slaanesh, demon, and Sybarite. Sybarite is, if I'm not mistaken, the name that they have for their mortals in Slaanesh, which wasn't always the case, I think. I think that's a newer 4th edition thing. But they also have the demon keyword here, these Syll'Esske, this pair of people fighting on the same base. Kind of like Alani and Elithor. But I don't think Alani and Elithor have control 4, so that might be unique to this. Now, in terms of the melee output, we had the Axe of Dominion. That was 4 attacks, 3s, 3s, 2 rend, 3, and that stayed the same. And then Scourging Whip, 6 attacks, 2s, 4s, 1 rend, 2, so that stayed exactly the same, all of those. So now I'm going to talk about the abilities as they were, again for the reasons I just listed, and then we'll compare and contrast with the new War Scroll. So before we had 3 different abilities. One was an any combat, one was a passive, and one was a spell. So I'll do the any combat phase ability first. This was Deadly Symbiosis. Pick a friendly non-hero Sybarite unit, so one of the mortals, and a friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh demon unit. They have to say that, I guess, because if you have the option to take a demon unit as an ally or something, or coalition, not coalition, but Regiment of Renown, they wanted to force it to be an actual Hedonites of Slaanesh demon. To be the target, both units must be wholly within 12 inch of this unit. So you're picking 2 different targets. One's demon, one's mortal. For the rest of the turn, if either target uses the all-out attack or all-out defense command, the other target can also use the same command in the same phase, and no command points are spent to use the command a second time. So we've seen some versions of that rule where you use the ability twice, or you can use it twice, or maybe even 3 times, but you have to pay for it with a CP. And this one, at least, is saying both of them are going to get that all-out attack or all-out defense. You just have to pay for it once. Okay, then we had the passive ability, the Vengeful Allegiance. Each time you make an unmodified save roll of 6 for a combat attack, not shooting, that targets this unit, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight ability has been resolved. Sure, so splashback mortals on 6s. Then we had the War Scroll spell. This was Subvert. It goes off on a 7. Range is 12 for a visible enemy unit. And then you just turn off commands for the rest of the turn, not until you're following hero phase. So that's notable. But turning off commands is super strong. That said, I don't know if I've ever seen Syll'Esske on the table, especially not recently. And that ability is great, but it's a 1-cast wizard. It needs to go off on a 7, no casting bonuses, and like I said, in a relatively restricted range. But very good ability. And of course, the reason we're seeing these War Scrolls on the Scourge of Ghyran versions that we're getting now is because GW has assessed that these would be good units to buff, or to incentivize people to actually put on the table instead of just leaving on the shelf. Since I just covered a spell, let's talk about the new spell. Okay, so we're moving on to the actual new War Scroll. Wandering Minds. It goes off on a 6. Pick up to 1 visible, friendly, non-hero Sybarite infantry unit. So again, that's basically what we had before with the other ability that chooses a Sybarite unit, but now it's specifically an infantry unit. And up to 1 visible, friendly, non-heroes Hedonites of Slaanesh demon infantry. Same idea, but now we're forcing it down an even more specific route, which is that they both have to be infantry to be the targets. If you picked a Sybarite target, subtract 1 from ward rolls for damage points inflicted by its combat attacks until the start of your next turn. So, you're making them get through more, assuming the opponent's unit actually had a ward roll. Otherwise, it's doing nothing. If you picked a demon target, that target has a 5+ ward until the start of your next turn. Keep in mind, I'm pretty sure all demons have a built-in 6, so it's basically +1 to a ward roll. Granted, if you picked both of them, you'd get both of these abilities. So it's very interesting. It's kind of replacing the ability that we just saw with Deadly Symbiosis, the all-out attack for 2 units or all-out defense. It seems interesting. I don't know how much that's really moving the needle here, but obviously a 5+ ward on your demon units is strong. And then being able to chop through some ward rolls is great, but at the end of the day is situational. So we've also got a passive ability, red coded here. When players, this is Champions of the Gilded Throne. When players are alternating picking units to use a fight ability, when it is your turn to pick a unit, instead of picking one unit, you can pick a friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh demon unit wholly within 18 of this unit, and a friendly non-hero Sybarite unit wholly within 18 of this unit. Resolve the second fight ability immediately after the first. Interesting. Okay, so this is a passive ability, which means it's not like a once per turn or a combat ability. Yeah, it sounds like, because it's just an aura, that you can do this as many times as you have those combos. So it's kind of like, gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the Lumineth rule, where you would have one fight after the other. But in any case, and that might have not even be a rule. I don't think that's a rule for Lumineth anymore, right? But right, lightning reflexes, maybe something like that. But anyway, as long it's kind of leaning even more into this Syll'Esske kind of union of demon and mortal stuff that's going on here. And granted, you can't do it for heroes, but this one's not, unlike the spell, not restricted to infantry units. And holier than 18 is quite generous. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So it doesn't even say, let's see, when players are alternating picking units to use a fight ability, when it's your turn to pick, instead of picking one, you can pick a friendly, so and you're picking 2 units. Yeah, and it doesn't seem like, if they say resolve the second fight ability immediately after the first. I don't know if it really matters which one goes first, but anyway, that's pretty cool. So if I'm reading this correctly, that means, let's say you had 3 mortal units that qualified non-heroes and 3 non-hero demon units. You could go mortal, demon, mortal, demon, mortal, demon in 3 different activations instead of 6, which is pretty nice. Yeah, I think that's an upgrade for sure. Okay, and then we have an end of any turn violent offerings. If any damage points were allocated to an enemy wizard or priest by this unit's combat attacks this turn, and that enemy unit has been destroyed, add 1 to this unit's power level for the rest of the battle. This unit can be affected by this ability multiple times, and the effects are cumulative. Very niche-y. You have to go wizard and priest hunting, and remember, this unit doesn't have fly, so you're not like particularly like getting through a whole bunch of protective chaff units or bodyguard units or whatever. Also, though a 5-up ward is always nice, and 9 health is a little higher than you usually see on a hero like this, a 4-up save is still just a 4-up save. So I think this is a very niche-y ability, but I mean, it's nice to get up to maybe, I don't even know if in the average game you're going to get up to power level 2, but you know, I think that's more for Timmy playing. It's a cool thing, but I don't know if it's going to go off much. So I wouldn't expect that to do a ton. And remember, the output didn't go up, but it's not a bad profile at all by any stretch of the imagination. But I think what you're really taking Syll'Esske for now is this 1-2 punch of the Sybarite units not having wards, or like making their opponent have weaker wards, and the demons getting stronger wards, and then also them getting to fight one after the other. It's cool. I don't know if this is enough. Slaanesh players, let me know what you think of this War Scroll. I like it. Compared to the original one, I mean, I don't know. Turning off commands is so strong. The splashback damage was kind of not really all that big of a deal. 2 alt attacks is kind of fun, but I think I like this set better. I think that's ultimately better, getting to chain activate like this. So yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking. All right, on to the Fiendbloods. Like I said, kind of notoriously a not great unit, but let's take a look if they boosted them enough. They've had a few attempts at this point, because I think they came out with the new battle tome they got at the end of 2nd edition. Am I right with that? Was there? I think there was a new battle tome, right? That's the one with the guy on the cover, yeah. And then we got the one with the greater demons on the cover. the Keeper of Secrets. That was in 3rd edition. So we've had 2 attempts with these Slaangor Fiendbloods plus the 4th edition rules now. And this will be our, I guess, 4th attempt. Someone correct me if I'm wrong there. But anyway, 6-inch move, 3 health, control 1, 5 up save. Doesn't have anything new there. And then if we scroll down here, infantry, champion, no musician or banner, chaos, Hedonites of Slaanesh, Sybarite. Okay. All right, looking at the melee profile, which has a different name, so it might have changed here. It has been 4 attacks, 4s, 3s, a -1, 2, and now has that exact same profile, but now has +1 damage on the charge. So going up to 3 damage on the charge. All right, I don't hate it, but they're still very easy to kill with only 3 health each and 5 up save. And remember, they're like 150 for 3 now, so they went up at least relative to the current points cost. The only ability they had on their war scroll was in the enemy shooting phase, slaughter at any cost. If any damage points were allocated to this unit this turn, this unit can use the normal move ability as if it were your movement phase. So, interesting. So, because you use your enemy shooting phase abilities after they've used all theirs, it's basically saying when you use this ability, it would have had to have been triggered by either something in the shooting phase itself, or maybe the movement if something had fly over mortal wounds or something, or in the hero phase. Otherwise, it's definitely not happening because of combat. I think that was a really bad rule. But let's see what they got now. They've got a deployment phase ability. If it's not been deployed, you can set it at waiting in ambush. And then any movement phase, you can set up on the table, holding the 9 of battlefield edge and more than 9 inches. Okay, I mean, I don't know how much Deep Strike Slaanesh has had, but this seems like it might be the only one, if I'm not mistaken. So that's nice. Adding that to an army gives it a new tool and gives them a function, which is nice. And the fact that you can put it down in the enemy movement phase, because it says any, is very strong. Anyone that's played against Storm Feeds with Grinder Fists know how good that rule can be. That said, that being wholly within 9 of a battlefield edge is kind of rough. There is some tech there, and of course, if you put it down in an enemy movement phase, then you'll get a movement phase later for yourself. But still, yeah, you guys will have to let me know what you think of that. But I definitely think it gives it some new tech. And then we've also got Instinctive Advance. Once per phase, army, as a reaction to opponent declaring a command for a unit within 12. Immediately after that command or the ability it was a reaction to has been resolved, this unit can move 3 inches. It can move through the combat ranges of enemy units and can end that move in combat. Okay, this is a unique wording here. Once per phase, army. So obviously you're only doing this with, even if you have 2 Fiendbloods units, you're only doing it with 1 per phase though. So we've got lots of phase options here, and it's a reaction to opponent declaring a command for a unit within 12 inches. So remember, declare is before they've resolved the effect. But then it says immediately after that command or the ability it was a reaction to has been resolved, this unit can move 3 inches. So I guess what happens is you react to them having said they were going to do it. Then they resolve it, and then you get to follow up with this. So it's they go, you go, they go, you go, basically. Yeah. And then you can move 3 inches. So you get kind of like a murder lust and move through the combat ranges of enemy units and can end that move in combat. So maybe one of the ideas is you deep strike them outside of 9 or within 12 so that this could be triggered, and you hope that they use some kind of command, and then you react to it and move them up 3 inches, so now they're just outside of 6. Then you could do a counter charge on a 6, which is not bad. Granted, again, this unit doesn't have strike first and dies to a swift breeze, but it does need to charge to make its output go where it needs to go here. And remember, adding +1 damage to 2 damage here is increasing their output by 50%. So this is a huge buff, but only, of course, when they charge. This is an interesting tech ability, and to give them this kind of murder lusty ability is really nice. And because it's per phase, a unit could just keep creeping forward. So like, you drop them in, let's say, at the end of their movement phase, so they're not going to do anything in between then. But then in the shooting phase, they do an all-out attack. And then you move 3. And then, like, in the charge phase, they re-roll a charge, maybe. Then you move 3. And then in the combat phase, they all-out attack. and then you move 3. I guess now I don't know the exact wording, the order that would happen. Like if they do an all-out attack, it's a reaction to that, and then it resolves. And I'm assuming the resolving is not referring to the fighting resolve. Oh no, it says or the ability. It was a reaction too. So for example, all-out attack would be they declared say a shooting ability. They said they were going to shoot. Then as a reaction to their own ability, they all-out attack it. Then you have to wait not until the all-out attack is resolved, but now the ability that it was reaction to. So not out after the shooting has been resolved. That's why that second clause is in there. Interesting. This is really techy. I don't know if it's enough to make people want to take them, but I already like it a whole lot better than what it was for sure. So yeah, people let me know what you're thinking. Is this enough to take some Fiendbloods? Kind of interesting, at least for the deep strike. Maybe 1 block of 3. You could even do a couple blocks of 3, a number of blocks of 3, just to have multiple units that you have as threats that can come down in any movement phase. That's really cool. It's just that it has to be wholly within 9 at the board edge. That's maybe a little bit rough. Okay, let's take a look at what's up here. So we got 2 battle formations and 3 heroic traits. Yeah, now I said earlier that I like to go through everything ahead of time. Sometimes I go through the battle formations after I've taken a look at them. Sometimes I already have a decent sense of what's out there, or I know that mainly one gets taken, but sometimes I just don't feel like covering it. So let's see how it goes today. But we've got the Pretenders and Invaders. These are references to previous sub-factions that they've typically had. So in Pretenders, we have a once per battle army deployment phase ability. Pick a friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh hero that has an artifacted power to be the target. Give the target a heroic trait from the figureheads of the Dark Prince or hedonistic obsessions tables. And designers note this heroic trait is given to the target during the deployment phase, not during army composition. Okay, so this is cool because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the KO version of this, where there was I can't remember if it was a heroic trait or what it was exactly, but it might have been a formation, but that it allows an extra enhancement to be taken. But it specifically said from the old one, as in the one that came out with the index. Well, this one is self-aware that this document exists because obviously the KO one I'm referring to, at the time of writing, there wasn't a Scourge of Ghyran update. But this one knows that these new heroic traits exist. So now basically you can give yet another free one of these heroic traits without having to go under in points and pay for it with your leftover points, as we have been made aware that it will exist in this GHB. So that's pretty cool. Is it enough to want to take it over the other formations? This is one of those places where I probably would go back and look at the formations, so we'll have to see. But and then we'll also have to see how good these heroic traits are. So I'm going to have to go through all that stuff first. Okay, and then Invaders. It's a passive ability. Add 1 to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Sybarite infantry units while they're wholly outside friendly territory. So in line with the Invaders lore, you're trying to go take some new terrain, take some new I guess territory. And +1 to rend just flat on melee weapons for Sybarite infantry units while they're wholly outside territory is pretty good. And we just also saw that the Fiendbloods are Sybarite and their infantry, and they're probably going to be wholly outside friendly territory because you'll drop them in near the opponent's side. So you might want to read that profile as which was -1 rend as -2 now if you take this. This would also be great with like the Painbringers. Is that what they're called? Yeah, the Myrmidesh Painbringers, or maybe the Symbresh Twin Souls. Could also be applied to, you wouldn't put it on the archers. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't do much. But if the archers did have to get into combat, then I guess that would be okay. Otherwise, there isn't... let's see. Well, actually, infantry. Syll'Esske was also infantry, and it doesn't say anything about... and had the Sybarite keyword. It doesn't say anything about them not being applicable for heroes. So this is going to apply to also Sigvald, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that real quick. Sigvald is in fact a Sybarite and an infantry. So now you're all of a sudden, this is pretty spicy. Just off the top of my head, just thinking about this, I think this is going to be taken way more than this. Taking an extra heroic trait is cool, I guess, but knowing that we can buy them seems kind of like, why wouldn't you just do that and take this? But anyway, let's look at the heroic traits. I really like this one though. Okay, we've got 3 new heroic traits you can choose from, and obviously we now know that you could stack 2, possibly if you take that formation. But I'm going to talk about the 3 that already exist. We've got a passive that's Glory Hog. If an enemy hero is destroyed by this unit, so the bearer of the heroic trait, this unit has the euphoric keyword for the rest of the battle. And remember, euphoric is the ability that interacts with, well, it is their battle trait where you could give kind of like temptation dice or an equivalent thereof. And you were getting, I think, crit 2 hits and or crit mortals if you use the spell that turns that on. So that was one of the heroic traits. But the unit had to have destroyed an enemy hero, which just seems so situational. Of course, you could have put it on like Keeper of Secrets, and that's maybe more likely to go get it. We had also Into the Fray. If this unit charged this turn and the modified charge roll was an A+, it has strike first for the rest of the turn. Decent, yes, for sure. And then Strongest Alone, add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's attacks while it is more than 6 inches from all of the friendly units. So it kind of wants to go do its own thing. But getting +1 to hit and wound is also really nice. So I could see both of those being a thing, those last 2. So let's take a look at what else we got here. We start with a command ability for a heroic trait. I think that's the first heroic trait we've ever seen that's a command ability, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so once per battle, your movement phase, so not your opponent's, Celebrity Warlord. Pick a friendly non-hero Sybarite unit that has been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit, half the number of models from the target unit rounding up. Wholly than 12 of this unit and more than 9. Yeah, that's great. Probably want to put it on like the... It could be this is not infantry this time, so it's going to be a whole lot of other options. You could take like a reinforced unit of the either of the 2 cavalry options, the mortal cavalry options that are pretty nice, Slickblade Seekers or Blissbarb Seekers, and then you get a unit of 5 of them back. I mean, that's already a deal. I think you have to blow a CP, and this person has to be this hero has to still be alive, but still, that's a great one. I think recursion is really strong, right? Okay, so Master Temptation is enemy hero phase. You can only use this ability if your opponent has any temptation dice. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 of this unit to be the target for the rest of the turn while your opponent has not used any of their temptation dice to replace a roll for the target this unit. Target this turn. The target can only use core abilities. Okay. Okay, so first stipulation is that you have in fact given your opponent some temptation dice, all right? And then built into the effect is that they haven't spent it yet. So it's checking for 2 things essentially. But you're picking a visible enemy unit with an 18, and this is every enemy hero phase if the conditions are met. And for the rest of that turn, so only in that enemy hero phase, or that enemy turn, while your opponent has not used any of their temptation dice to replace a roll for the target this turn. So they could have used them at the moment of giving this ability, this debuff, if you want to call it that. They had to have some temptation dice, okay? So that's number 1, but that doesn't mean, so the only way they can turn this off. So even if they immediately used all of their temptation dice, like as soon as you were done with this ability, the soonest possible moment, if they hadn't used it on this unit in particular, then the unit can only use core abilities. Remember, that's going to be things like all of your normal move abilities, shoot, fight, so forth. The vast majority of abilities in the game, and all warscroll abilities with very few exceptions, are not core abilities. So basically, it's forcing you to give some temptation dice, and then it's forcing them, if they want to do anything other than core abilities on that one unit, to use one of the temptation dice to replace a roll for that target. That said, it's not all that bad to use it. They can take some mortal damage, and it does throw away one of the temptation dice. It's interesting. It's kind of like a weird, very situational Bellicor effect, but not entirely. I don't know. Someone who plays very techie Slaanesh, let me know what you think of this rule. But it's got a lot of kind of... it seems good on paper maybe, but then I'm wondering how often that's really going to do what you need it to do. Granted, if you can take multiple heroic traits, maybe it's also worth taking. You just got to have enough heroes that you can take different heroic traits on. And remember, this ability here that I was talking about above said you pick a hero that does have an artifact of power, and then they get a heroic trait. So it has to be a hero that you weren't already going to stack, say, a heroic trait on anyway that you with the artifact. It could be that you only really had one hero in mind for a specific artifact, and you already knew you were going to give that same hero your heroic trait. So this wouldn't, you can't take two heroic traits on the hero, is my point. Okay, and then lastly, we've got the need for perfection. The first time each turn that an unmodified charge roll, casting roll, unbinding roll, or banishment roll for a friendly, non-euphoric unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit is 5 or less, that unit has the euphoric keyword for the rest of the turn. Okay, so the stipulation for non-euphoric going to euphoric is obviously not worth talking about, besides that it covers itself because the whole point of this rule is to give the euphoric keyword. So for a friendly, okay, the first time each turn, then an unmodified charge roll, casting roll, unbinding, or banish roll for a friendly non-euphoric unit wholly within 12 of this unit is 5 or less. That unit is the euphoric. So you could do this 10 times per game, right? So because it checks for each turn, and you could keep trying to roll these things, and if they happen to get a low roll, then you're giving them euphoric right after you do that. You don't have a choice here. I mean, I guess you could choose not to use. No, it's a passive ability. I think that means it pretty much does go off. So then the question is, say you fail a charge roll, what is getting euphoric doing for you? It's only giving it for the rest of the turn, and then implicitly you didn't get into, well, you didn't fail it necessarily, but you rolled a 5 or less. So maybe best of both worlds is that you are at like a 5-inch charge, you just barely get it, and then you get euphoric for free. The casting, unbinding, or banishing is kind of so situational because how many of your wizards actually wanted to go into combat, and which is usually why you want the euphoric keyword, and I think that's mainly just applicable for your big melee, like a keeper of secrets type people, because they also have to be wizards, right? And not a whole lot of wizards are going to be super great in combat. Maybe Dissessa, maybe one of those. Let's see. Glutos, is he a wizard? I got to remind myself. I think he is, right? Yes, he's a wizard as well. So, I mean, there are going to be some units that maybe want to go in. I could see maybe Contorted Epitome has always been a decent fighter. There are some options for sure. This is a weird one, though. And it's interesting because these rules feel very like rules legalese-esque. They're very conditioned on other things going off or other situations being true. That seems to be kind of true of everything that we've seen here except for this +1 rend. There's a lot of kind of little things. I mean, I guess bringing a unit back is pretty straightforward. But these two right here, the Temptation Dice one and then this Euphoric one, plus also that you had to have had an artifact to get this. Maybe that's a little situational. And then when we look, of course, at Syll'Esske. Syll'Esske was all about the balance between the mortals and the demons. And then if you killed a wizard or priest, is a little nichey. And then you got the Slaangor Fiendbloods, their rules. It's very techy and specific. And I think it leans into a certain psychographic profile for players. But anyway, yeah, I don't know what to think of these. I think they're pretty fun. I particularly like Ecstatic Revelers. It makes me want to go look at the formations real quick because it's been a minute since I've played against Slaanesh. We had the Depraved Carnival, which is add +1 to hit rolls for friendly Sybarite infantry units while they are damaged or if they had any model slain this turn. That's okay. Yeah, that's similar, I guess. Then we had the Epicurean Revelers. Each time a friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh demon unit used the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls, which is the worst version of that rule. Usually you want to see 3 rally points, but that doesn't happen that often in the game. Secret Cavalcade. Friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh cavalry units can use retreat ability and still charge. In addition, no more damage is inflicted by Hedonites of Slaanesh cavalry units by retreat abilities. Interesting because I guess that makes sense with Seeker Cavalcade, but it doesn't work for the chariots because they're war machines. And then Supreme Sybarites add 3 to the control scores of friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh units while they're within the combat ranges of any friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh heroes. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think I do really like this Ecstatic Revelers. Yeah, that kind of seems like it might be my new favorite formation for them. So to me, that seems like the biggest update. But someone let me know. What do you think? Do you think it's worth getting an extra heroic trait? I think maybe the jury should stay out until we know the exact rules from the GHB. Of course, we won't have to wait too long. But yeah, I think it's a decent update. I don't know if it's going to change the whole way Slaanesh plays, but I think it should be fun enough. A little rules legalese, but yeah, otherwise I'm digging it all right. Okay, guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments or join us in the Discord. Thanks again for following these videos. It's been a labor of love making them, and I really appreciate knowing that you guys got something out of it. Anyway, tomorrow will be Ogre Maw Tribes, and then we've only got Nurgle, Soulblight, and Sylvaneth left. So look out for those. And then I'm going to be doing, I think, a video that's a tier list of all of these updates that we've seen for each of the armies. Maybe with Jonas. That would be nice. All right. Until next time, guys. Ryan out.